Hi, I am Lise Colucci. I'm one of the life coaches at QueenBeeing.com. Going to talk about Peter Pan syndrome and narcissism, not just Peter Pan syndrome, but when the narcissist doesn't want to grow up, when they live their life as sort of an emotional eternal child, which I guess we could say they all kind of are, but there's a really specific thing that happens with what we're calling Peter Pan syndrome, which is not a clinical diagnosis. What it is it's a group of behaviors that shows a person does not want to mature, does not want to grow up, and lives in the state of being like Peter Pan, the eternal child. So basically, Peter Pan syndrome defined is a boy or a girl, a man or a woman who never wants to grow up. They never would grow up. They would never become a man or woman. They stay a boy or a girl in their, we'll talk about what that looks like. Okay, so they're individuals who just don't want to. They don't want to grow up. They don't see the need. They don't have the drive to become fully mature adults. So, okay, one thing that happens with Peter Pan syndrome is there's trouble making long-term plans. There's trouble with any thoughts or planning for the future outside of fanciful, magical thinking type of really exaggerated plans or like things that you know aren't going to happen anyway, what we would call future faking. Now, when you combine that with narcissism, what you get is a whole lot of future faking. We're going to talk a little bit in a second about how this all combines with someone who is also narcissistic and what that looks like. So, another thing with Peter Pan syndrome is they rely on others to take care of them. They don't have the ability to have a whole lot of care for oneself as an adult. They struggle with decision making, obviously, right? Because how can you make a decision if you're not a grown up in your head, right? Um, they have no interest in personal growth or accountability, no interest in accountability. Now, people with Peter Pan syndrome are not all narcissistic people. Um, they can have the ability to have accountability. They are making the choice not to take accountability. There is an avoidance toward any accountability that makes them have to do the grown-up things, right? So when you have a narcissist, obviously they don't have accountability, and we'll start with that one in just a second. So, okay, number 4, to understand what Peter Pan syndrome is, number 5 thing is there's money issues. They struggle with money. Obviously, right? Because everything should be just given to them. They get away with stuff by sort of leeching off other people or needing from others. They're conflict avoidant and they will often play the victim. It's sort of a petulant, bratty victim kind of behavior that comes from people who won't step up, won't grow up, and won't be mature. They're self-centered, petulant, bratty, aloof, haughty, demanding. When they're provoked, they're irritable and childlike. Now, I realize that sounds a heck of a lot like a narcissist, right? And indeed, it is in some cases that the narcissist also has this sort of Peter Pan thing. Here's the plus sides of the Peter Pan syndrome. They're fun. They are playful. They are always getting into new things, always on adventures, always taking other people along for the ride. They are, I mean, if you know the story, right, you know what Peter Pan's like. He has a whole lot of people just following him, wanting to be just like him. People can become envious of this childlike nature of this person. Well, it's not childlike nature. It is actual, like a psychological issue where they don't want to grow up. Not that people shouldn't be childlike. Of course, you can be childlike and also have responsibilities and accountability. When you combine all that type of behavior with a narcissist, you think about it. Okay, so no accountability is one thing we know as a major trait of a narcissist. Well, when there's already that, plus there's all this other stuff, it's the perfect setup for a whole heck of a lot of gaslighting, right? You can have this charming narcissist that almost never raise their voice. They almost never actually directly criticize. Everything is passive aggressive and covert. I think of it being very quickly turning into the victim stance and then turning on you, gathering people around you to have support, like I picture, the Lost Boys with bows and arrows, pointing at you when you are not agreeing with them. They will flip everything to being like, if you could have a conversation, and it could be something completely frivolous that they're wanting to do, when there's a whole lot of stuff that needs to get done, and you're like, but this really needs to get done, and they say, oh, are you gonna say I can't spend time with my friends? Are you that type of person? So they'll flip it around so that it's like whatever you're asking seems completely unreasonable because it's the grown-up thing, right? And they want to go do the fun thing. So I picture these fun type of narcissists, so to speak, well, they're not fun to be around, not long term, but from the outside, from what other people see, the eternal boy girl, right? They are so a narcissist, because of the impulsive nature of some narcissists, it is exaggerated in those with this Peter Pan type of way of thinking. They will also blame others for their fault, their flaws, their faults, their anything that they do wrong. Like they'll gaslight, they'll blame shift, they will point the finger back, and they'll often gather a bunch of people around them, like I said, to then support the narrative that they just created, that they're the one that is having the wrong thing done to them, and it's your fault that whatever it was that happened, or whoever else's fault. They often aren't only blaming you. You'll notice it, like if something goes wrong at work, they'll blame someone else. The boss or somebody else will be blamed. If something goes wrong in a friend group, they'll blame one of the friends, and they'll try to get you on their side to see how it's the other person's fault, of course. They can't lose in a debate, an argument, or whatever. They cannot lose. They fear criticism. Their ego is fragile. There's these types of it's a very vulnerable narcissist. It's like a childlike vulnerability in their ego. All right. They not that children have vulnerable egos, but in an adult, that's what it looks like. Okay. They can't plan honestly for the future. I talked about that. So narcissists can't plan honestly for the future to begin with, because they're always future faking, because they're just saying things to get your supply in the moment, right? And they don't actually mean what they say. They're just saying it to keep you hooked on whatever it is they're doing. And that's the same thing. So it goes hand in hand. There's a lot of crossover traits between this what people call it Peter Pan syndrome and certain types of narcissists. So they can be very charming. Because a narcissist can be very charming, they are not all charming, but because some of the types can be very charming, I picture a more overt type of narcissist as well here, where they are extremely charming and extremely charismatic and extremely friendly, and just dancing about from thing to thing, looking like they've got their hand in all the pots of all the good places and doing all the good stuff, but actually they are just not wanting to take accountability for the life that they actually should be managing and taking care of, and the people in their life they should be taking care of. So they tend to have, because a narcissist tends to have an idealized based love, we can look at that in the same way, where the people with Peter Pan syndrome also have a very idealized based love. They say it isn't the same thing, but to me, it kind of chalks up to the same thing. It's that idealized based love means that they look at other people who they love, so to speak, as objects. They love them for the good things that they receive from them. They don't love them for who they are as a person. So as soon as they don't see value in that, Peter Pan will turn and find another Wendy. All right. Or another, whatever the character, if it's gender is opposite, then you know what I'm saying. Anyway, they need an immediate and immense amount of gratification for everything they do. And there is an extreme arrogance with this Peter Pan syndrome that is also the same. So when you have a narcissist with this, that behavior is going to be amplified. You're going to really see the need for the grandiose and the grandiose complimenting, the like lifting their ego up all the time, the immediate gratification for things. If they want it now. You're going to see that more amplified in the ones who are more living as if they're still a little boy or a little girl emotionally. Okay. They what did I say here? cannot read my writing here. They bore easily of others, of things, of situations. They will bore, and when they bore, what happens? What happens when a narcissist bores? One thing that happens is they start to devalue you because then, ooh, how exciting. Look, arguments start, and then they get supply from that. So, yeah, this is just like a short talk on this. I'm gonna go and read what you guys are saying here. Because I think you're adding into it. Hey, hey, everybody. Um, Meemaw Dragon says mine called himself Snowboy for his emails, and he's 65. His 90-year-old mom calls herself Little Antique Girl. Yeah, funny. I was just watching the recording of yesterday's live stream when I got the notification. Okay, so let's see. What's the difference between Peter Pan syndrome and just emotional maturity? Well, that's basically what it is. It's the refusal to change that. So say you have someone that isn't a narcissist and someone goes, "Hey, you got Peter Pan syndrome, man. You need to grow up," or woman, whatever, right? Like this hurts people. If someone wanted to, they would change that. It's not a personality disorder. It's a complex or a syndrome. It's like a series of behaviors within the way someone acts, right? But when you couple it with narcissism, you get the inability to change this. So you have a certain type of narcissist. Not all narcissists are childlike. Some act like grumpy old people. Some act like emotionally vacant. Some are aggressive and some are hostile. Those are not the childlike ones. There's ones that just go through life. There tend to be they're either covert narcissists or they are overt narcissists with so much around them that people, um, that don't know, don't see it. They just think they're fun loving. And the people who suffer from them and the toxic things they do get really frustrated because everyone else thinks they are friendly and fun and playful and joyful and all this stuff, and they're really not, because we know what it's like on the other side. So I would say that's kind of what the difference is. Um, Meemaw Dragon says, love to spend my money. And he says he loved to spend your money and said the way to get rich was to borrow other people's money. And then when you lose it, it's their problem. Oh, such a winner there. Yeah. Uh huh. Every single weekend for 15 years, we spent all Sunday with his family. And they asked before we made our plans. And he said yes every week. Oh, okay. Crystal Mountain, hello, says they are also never serious. They make, yes, yes, never serious, making jokes when you try to have conversations or deal with some sort of adult matter. Yes, yes. And you see someone with empathy who has this syndrome, so to speak. Well, you'll be able to have some level of conversation within that. They will feel bad about it. They'll try to make amends. They'll try to fix it. It's different. When you have a narcissist with this, and they're the type that's constantly making jokes and avoiding everything that's serious, not even serious, just a normal conversation, right? They're avoiding through the jokey, like you're describing there. That'll never change. And it's infuriating. And it is a form of diminishing you. It is a form of devaluing you. It is a form of avoidance. And what's the word? I am looking for this really particular word. It's slipping my mind. Anyway, um, uh, your husband asked your 20-year-old to do drugs, who does not, your child who does not do drugs. Oh my goodness, the influence, right? Darlene says, I wonder if this isn't just activities but spending too. Yes, it is. It's not activities. It's a whole way of seeing life, right? A whole way of acting in life. My ex would say he didn't have grocery money, then go out and buy bike parts or a new computer. Uh-huh. Yeah, it's I mean, yeah, that's part of it. So, okay. All right, you guys, that's it for today. I just wanted to get in here quick and talk about this because somebody asked about it. And so there it is. I think they are childish in thought pattern. They are. They are. And like I said, not all narcissists follow this pattern. That's why I'm separating it out a little to kind of give it just a little bit of shine a little light on it and how it looks when there's a narcissist involved. Because all of those traits that are within this childlike way of being in life, coupled with narcissism, you end up with this a very frustrating, very inability to even remotely take accountability. They don't even pretend to, right? Because they're constantly blame shifting. And if this is happening to you and you're like, feel like I'm dealing with a child, there it is, right? And it doesn't, again, it's just a word to give it a name so we have some way of talking about it and discussing how it affects us and how to get away from it and how to get out of it and to realize if this person is narcissistic, they're not going to change. Let them be Peter Pan, whatever, bye. Okay, I will see you guys next time, probably tomorrow. I want to talk about a couple things. One thing I want to talk about is how the narcissist describes a breakup. And then another thing I want to talk about is ways to become indifferent to a narcissist. That's a good one. We'll do that later this week. So if you need anything, find me in the main description of every video. I am available for coaching. I'm available by email if you have any questions. And if you need group coaching, information's there as well. We meet 3 times a week for group. It's a Zoom meeting. It's coaching help, peer support. It's all good stuff. So if you need it, it's there. I will see you guys next time. You take care. Bye-bye.